I think the tools and the processes and methods, they actually impose some constraints. These are the constraints, right? A software, in my view, is a problem solving process where we are trying to take a shot at how we should be solving that problem. What is the best way of solving that problem? So now if I look at the philosophical element of that, what we are saying is that a software is a way in which we are encoding a problem solving from a given point of view. So if I am the designer, I thought of a particular way in which I am solving the problem, and I am encoding that in a kind of a medium. Software is only the medium, right? It could have been any other medium, for example, there in which I have solved the problem there. What is the right way for me to solve the problem? Should I have a world view which is based on me as a designer, or should I have a world view based on you as a consumer of that? Now, if you are the consumer, who is the real consumer of that? Philosophically, to me, the first most important thing is to understand we are not building software for ourselves or for people like us. We are building software for a given audience, and we need to be mindful and respectful of how they solve the problems there. So I think, to me, the philosophical element is really all about whom are we building it for, and are we mindful of the fact that this is how people solve their problems there. The mindset, to me, is the next way in which we basically take the next step forward. Then we say, hey, now that I have understood the world view from how people look at it, how do I really solve the problem? Do I wait for a fully baked way of doing it, and then we say, hey, this is how we are going to do. Unless everything is done, I'm not even going to start there. Or I say, I understand how it is, and I understand that the basic idea is that we cannot solve the problem in a single pass. Every complex problem will best be solved in a very iterative manner, in a very collaborative way, in which do I treat my consumers as just passive consumers, where I'm saying whatever I dish out to them, they will accept it, or I say that even without the software, they are living, right? I mean, they are solving their problem day in and day out, which means they have some wisdom about how a good solution should work out. If I partner with them and I treat them as a co-creator rather than a passive consumer, then I can actually create better solution. So my mindset, to me, is all about saying these are not passive consumers, these are co-creators. So they are on my team, so I start teaming up with them. To me, the mindset is really all about saying, how do I solve the problem? At a problem level, then I as an individual, we talk about agile mindset. What does it even mean? The agile mindset very simply is something that we keep borrowing from the work by a Stanford professor, Carol Dweck. She wrote this book on mindset, where she talked about fixed mindset versus growth mindset, where the whole idea is that some people have a fixed mindset and say this is the only way this should be done, and they have a very, very strong point of view. They are not willing to budge from that opinion. But there are people who are saying, hey, maybe there is a better way of doing it. Maybe there are other ways in which we can grow there. We may not succeed in that, but that's okay. In the process of doing it, we'll stumble upon some other truths, and that will help us eventually get to the right solution there. So having that kind of a mindset where I am open to experimentation, open to learning, I'm willing to take some meaningful risks there, I'm not scared of the failure, I'm willing to kind of keep iterating over it. That is a very important kind of mindset. So we need to have a culture that really supports that thing. To me, that's the third piece of the whole thing there. Organizations where making mistakes is a sin. Organizations where, for example, somebody comes and says, hey, what did you do last week? And he says, I failed 3 times. And that person gets reprimanded. That the agile thinking may not work there, because you need to have a tolerance for intelligent failures. You need to have that kind of an appetite where you are able to say, this guy made a mistake, come on, let's have a small party, let's learn from that person there. And if it's a great mistake, we actually make a big deal about the whole thing there. So that agile mindset will not fit into a very conventional kind of a culture where people are saying, don't make any mistakes, do everything right the first time, everything has to be Six Sigma. I'm always reminded of this very nice quote by my favorite management professor, Gary Hamel, where he said, thank God for the biological screw-ups. If not for that, we would still all be slime, right? Because it's a Six Sigma world. The evolution would not have happened if animals did not probably genetically recombine with each other in novel ways there. So I think if we are really looking at a very creative ways of doing things, and we are looking for finding some novel solutions to that. One has to have a tolerance for bringing the agile mindset into the workplace, and the agile mindset is like the seed that requires an agile culture as a fertile ground, otherwise it will not sprout there. So that is how I would see. Now tools and methods and processes are to me the next set of maybe the fourth order and the fifth order extensions of that, because in order for us to do the job properly we need the tools. Unfortunately what happens is people get it totally wrong. They ignore the whole holistic part of why we are doing it, the whole philosophical element, the mindset and the culture, but they straight away jump onto the tools and the methods bandwagon because that's the easiest thing to sell. The tool, method and processes are really the third, fourth, fifth order functions of the core thing, but the whole idea is if we don't really start on some of these basics, we will never get to the point. If we start only with the tools and all, it might give a short-term win, but then it is not sustainable and it may definitely not be scalable in the long run. That's my thought process on that.